Okay, guys, I know it has been way too long, but we are back. Say hi, Dad.
Hey, Dadman is back again for another episode.
Okay, Dad. So we are getting near to the end of this show, and today we are going to be talking about the unspoken obvious, otherwise known as subtext in dialogue. Do you have any idea before we begin what subtext is?
No idea.
Really? There's been a lot of complaints, I feel like, recently, sadly, about dialogue that's too on the nose, which is basically just the opposite of subtext. So I have prepared a visual to try to explain what subtext is.
What is ice cream?
You gotta look at the picture, Dad.
Oh, okay. Looks like somebody dunked their face in an ice cream bowl and is eating the scraps from a spoon.
Okay. So, great subtext, making what lies behind the words more obvious than the words said.
Oh, okay. Got it.
You sure?
I'll fake it if I don't.
Oh boy. Okay, questions. What is the bigger context of this scene? What has gone on before with Nami and these characters? What are Nami's actions and expressions in this scene? How is Nami speaking in this scene? And now, what does she actually say? And then, of course, the fifth question is see how much more is going on beyond the words.
Got it. Let's go for it.
Okay. Okay, so what is the bigger context of this scene here, Dad?
Zoro is hurt really bad, and they need a doctor. And I think Nami's just kind of
Someone needs to go back to Baradia.
in charge right now.
Okay, she is in charge. So I broke down some more notes in the context. Nami thinks Zoro was foolish to sword fight Mihawk and tried to warn him not to. She also tried to convince Luffy to convince Zoro not to fight Mihawk, but Luffy supported Zoro in the sword fight instead. Usopp half-heartedly tried to make peace within the crew, but mostly stayed out of things. Nami almost left the crew to sail away with the map, but came back in time to see Zoro get wounded twice. After the first time, she reached out and held Usopp's hand, but did not reach out to Luffy. She watched Zoro fall and talked to Luffy, but mostly stood back until after Zoro fainted. Thinking about all that, I think you could tell that there was a lot of anger simmering under the surface for Nami with like some of her facial expressions here, no?
She's anger and exasperation.
Oh, yes. Of course, it could almost say that about Nami always, though, but anyway.
Yeah, exasperation seems to be a part of her total character.
Okay. So, speaking of which, we also look at her expressions here, which also say more than the words, which says a lot for the actress. I think the actress is really good. Really good at that.
Someone needs to go back to Baradia.
Yeah, there's a lot of intensity in her eyes, if you saw right there.
Yeah. A lot of cluelessness in Luffy's eye.
Yeah. We're mostly concentrating on Nami right now, but you are correct.
I'm sorry, I like Luffy, but
Yeah.
we'll try to concentrate on Nami.
Okay, so I also went through the scene and I said, how is Nami talking? So if you can try not to even think of the actual meaning of her words, but just listen to how she speaks. You can kind of tell how she's feeling in some of the other subtextual things there.
Maybe one of the customers is a ship's doctor.
Like her tone is sharp.
But considering the situation, she is relatively not quite calm and collect, but she has everything together.
Yeah. What are the clues you're getting, though? She's not quite calm and collected. She's mostly, but how can you tell?
The face, she does when she opens a shirt, there is shock on how bad the wound really is.
We can tell how fast she's speaking, too, right? When you listen to the voice. Like if you close your eyes and listen to just her voice.
Someone needs to go back to Baradia.
What did you hear there?
I think she enunciates her words sharp and clear. Like,
she does.
Do this now.
She does, that's true. I was thinking that she's speaking faster at some times and slower at others.
Go back to Baradia.
I'm really not hungry right now.
Maybe one of the customers is a ship's doctor.
Which is probably that enunciation. Like, I think... Actually, you did hit on something there, because I think when she's losing it a little bit, she speaks faster. Then she realizes who she's talking to. Usopp and Luffy, and then she slows down to enunciate for them. Don't know if she actually has another line in this. Yeah, she does have some interesting facial expressions, though.
Well, considering they unrolled a knife, they're cutting up a fish.
Yeah.
So we might understand how is this going to help this wound by putting on.
I feel like I looked this up and this is a real thing, though. Which, yeah, the fact I had to look it up shows you that I didn't know about it beforehand, but I think I looked it up and this is actually a thing.
Okay. Putting the skin over the wounds to make it heal faster. Interesting.
No, you totally forgot about this, huh?
Well, it's been like 6 months since I've seen this, so yeah. Dad man's mind like a rusty steel trap. And she's talking to him as if he was actually listening and awake.
Nobody believed him.
Though you can tell she's straining because...
Yeah, honestly, this isn't a very good reading voice, but you can tell why, because she's choked up.
He never stopped lying until he was dead.
I don't know about this story she's reading. Maybe it could have been a little bit...
Well, yeah, why did she choose that story?
Nami doesn't realize that Luffy has to be true to himself. And true to himself means everybody gets to make their own decisions on how they live their lives.
Why do you think that might rub her the wrong way?
I don't know. Nami wants to save everybody from hurt because she's been hurt so deeply.
There you go.
But sometimes you have to have a free choice, and sometimes freedom leads to being hurt.
Yeah, right now it's for Zoro to not die in my bed.
Really good acting moment.
But isn't there something that you want?
Not everyone gets to follow their dream.
There we go. That is the line I think of, which was the iceberg of subtext in the scene. Now, I think we've completely forgot to go over the 5 questions in the first scene, but okay. Well, I think we just saw the context. We saw Nami's wet eyes, tight face, honestly, some barely disguised, disgust. And that one real close-up, you even got to see the flaring of her nostrils, so she's kind of listening to Luffy and she mad. We talked about how she was speaking a little bit with how choked up her words were. Again, they were kind of sharp when she got in that argument with Luffy. She raised her voice at one point.
Because you could have saved Zoro.
And she said Luffy could have stopped him. And I am actually going to disagree with her on that point. I think if Luffy had said no, I think his friend would have just bulldozed over him or tossed him into a ship sail or something. Probably not into the sea, considering he's a devil fruit eater, but he probably would have thrown him somewhere. Okay.
I mean, that was Zoro's dream, to be the best swordsman in the world. And Luffy was not going to take that away from him, despite Nami's fear that he was going to be killed.
Yeah, if you think about it, it actually really stinks for that to be your dream while Mihawk is, still alive. It's what a time to want to be the best swordsman when Mihawk is around.
Especially when he's a sorcerer swordsman.
Not technically, but in all practicality, yes.
Look, anybody can split a ship in half and just simply point his sword at it. Has to be a little bit on the magical side.
Anime physics, daddy, anime physics. Anyway, but yeah, we're not going to talk about what's going on beyond the words right now. I was trying to hint at it, but it would be major spoilers, so maybe we'll just go on for now. So,
moving right along.
I think we're gonna go to the actual fish scene because Nami does appear in it, even if she doesn't speak.
No one leaves except you.
And there was subtext in that dialogue there too. Arlong's
total charge.
Yep. Good job, Dad. Give me a fist bump. You're really understanding subtext. It would have been embarrassing if I couldn't teach you what subtext means, my own father, by the end of this. There's Nami. Oh, you can see the tightness in her face and tightness in her eyes there.
My gut hasn't been so great lately.
Actually, this is pretty good subtext for Luffy. I guess Nami rubbed off on him in the last scene.
Hey, Zoro! What's up?
He's trying real hard.
He is. But, you can tell the subtext because he doesn't know what to say. So he's just being really awkward with all that, he feels guilty about bubbling to the surface.
Okay. Fear and concern in her face.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do that?
You fed us.
It really doesn't take much for Luffy to feel like he owes you.
He ate half the restaurant's food.
Okay, that's probably true.
He kind of owes them.
She's just saying please here, but what is underneath her please?
She doesn't want people to get hurt.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, she might be okay if the restaurant people get hurt at this point. I mean, she is telling them to just leave.
Okay, face, total exasperation.
Yeah, but otherwise kind of stiff. But no, she's okay with abandoning Zeph and the restaurant's patrons, so it's really Luffy. And probably Usopp too. So are we fast forwarding or not?
Sure, we can fast.
Really? I did not expect it. Oh, nope, never mind. I forgot about this one. How did I forget about this one?
Hurting the people closest to me.
So a lot of subtext there, a lot of things left unsaid.
Because I always end up hurting the people closest to me.
Tight voice, quiet voice. And she was holding the Grand Line map.
How about a drink?
A lot of subtext in that line, too.
So Luffy doesn't do well in water.
Well, yeah, that was kind of my whole point.
Arlong, wait!
There we go. And there's Nami's line.
For you just like I said I would.
That says all without saying a lot. Actually, that tattoo says probably a lot more than her lines.
Nami is a loyal member of the Arlong Pirates. She has been for years.
Actually, that's kind of true.
We have the map.
Again, a lot of subtext from both of them here.
The sea do it for you.
Very cold, very slow, but I think you could saw the little swallow there as she walked away.
How did she know that Luffy was going to be saved?
I like to think that she had a little chat with Sanji back in the restaurant as she came around. And let's face it, what was his survival rate going to be if Arlong tore his throat out?
It's looking bad here.
That's looking really good. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. In my defense, I was not the only straight female thinking that during this scene.
Let a guy take his shirt off. Everything changes.
I'm impressed he could swim in jeans.
He only wanted to save you. That's the reason she gave Arlong the map.
Good job. Okay, I think, even though that's kind of a low point to end on, I don't think Nami shows up in person again, so we can probably just end there. But you feel like you learned something about subtext?
I think so.
Okay, good.
A lot can be said from facial expressions.
Well, not just facial expressions, but the context, what happened before and after the scene. There's a lot of hinting at context we didn't know about, but that gets the watcher, viewer engaged, wondering what that context is. And, of course, tone of voice, speed of voice. You picked up on her exact pronunciation in one scene. Then, of course, there's the actual words, which is, kind of not the subtext, just the bare bones. But I did want to say that even in book writing, where, you're like, well, I can't, I don't have an actor. You can always, if you pick up on what actors are doing in a scene, you can describe that and add the good acting yourself with good description writing.
Very true.
And that in the voice and everything. Okay, all right, I'll let you go, Daddy. Thank you for coming and being here.
You're welcome. Anytime you need Dad, man, let me know.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.